Investigation Subcommittee will come to order. The title of today's subcommittee hearing is A Global Perspective on Cyber Threats. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess of the subcommittee at any time. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days within which to submit extraneous materials to the chair for inclusion in the record. The chair now recognizes himself for 3 minutes for an opening statement. The purpose of today's hearing is to identify the United States' primary cyber enemies, better understand the growing global cyber threat, and ultimately formulate more effective responses to cyber incidents. The cyber landscape today is vastly different from that of past years, with technology an integral component of nearly all transactions, means of communication, and methods of transportation. In recent years, there has been a growing focus on protecting the cybersecurity of critical infrastructure. However, in the wake of the breach of over 4 million personnel records at the Office of Personnel Management, it is still clear that much more needs to be done to protect Americans from cyber threats. Cybercrime provides a clear and present danger to the United States of America. At the other end of these attacks are nation-states like Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, terrorist groups, criminal organizations, and hacktivists. These groups can range from sophisticated cyber actors to ideological groups motivated by political or patriotic reasons. While their motivations may vary, there remains one constant: they intend to hurt America and our interests. Not only are they targeting the critical infrastructure of our country, like banks, power grids, food supplies, but they also pose a much graver threat directly to the citizens of the United States. Nearly every government agency has been a target of cyber attacks. And with the recent OPM breach, the federal government has now provided a channel for these criminals to access sensitive personal information. In the wake of these incidents, the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, continues to collect information on consumers and their financial practices. And Obamacare has created a vast data hub to collect and store scores of highly sensitive personal and health information on American citizens. This most recent cyber attack on OPM should underscore the urgency around reconsidering the need for such governmental data collection programs. The benefits do not outweigh the privacy risks to American citizens. The extent to which this information is utilized to harm our government's employees is yet to be known. But what is known is that more needs to be done to mitigate these cyber risks. I welcome our distinguished panel this morning and look forward to hearing more about what the federal government can do and should be doing to protect our country and our citizens from these cyber criminals. With that, I yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the witnesses as well. Mr. Chairman, there appears to be clear and convincing evidence that cyber attacks pose a clear and present danger, not only to United States businesses, but also to the U.S. government itself. The preponderance of the evidence shows that 2014 was a banner year for cyber criminals. According to a report from the Heritage Foundation, written by Riley Walters, the list of cyber attacks in 2014 on private U.S. companies include the following excerpts. And Mr. Chairman, in my opinion, one of the best ways to appreciate the magnitude of a problem is to examine and review some of the components. Let's review some of the components. January 2014, Target hacked, 70 million people impacted. Neiman Marcus hacked, impact, 350,000 persons. Michael's retail store hacked, impact, 2.6 million customers. Yahoo hacked, impact, 273 million users. April 2014, Aaron Brothers retail store hacked, impact, 400,000 customers. May 2014, eBay hacked, 233 million customers. June 2014, Feely Communications hacked, impact, 15 million users. In September 2014, Home Depot, 56 million shoppers impacted by a hack. Google, 5 million. Goodwill Industries, 868,000. And of course, in October, JP Morgan Chase impact 76 million households. According to this report, in 2014, the annual average cost per company of successful cyber attacks increased to $20.8 million in the financial services industry, $14.5 million in the technology sector, and $12.7 million in the communications industry. These are real people, these are real concerns, and they must be addressed. Mr. Chairman, I fear that FBI Director James Comey was right when he proclaimed there are two kinds of big companies in the United States: those who have been hacked and those who don't know that they've been hacked. Mr. Chairman, I will yield back the balance of my time. Rather than yield back, I will share it with the gentle lady that you will call next.
Thank you, Mr. Green. The chair now recognizes for 1 minute the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Fitzpatrick, the vice chair of our committee, for 1 minute.
Thank the chairman and also the three witnesses here today to share your experience and your knowledge with the committee. The protection of our personal data is increasingly a critical part of our private lives, and the threat of data breaches from state or non-state actors looms heavy over security experts in nearly every sector of the American economy. These types of attacks have real financial and emotional consequences. When families back in my hometown of Levittown learned that their information was compromised, they'd immediately become concerned will they be able to use their debit card to purchase gas and groceries. But for our nation's financial institutions, the risks are significant and they are systemic. As chairman of the task force to investigate terror finance, I'm especially interested in the possibility that this data, once stolen, could be sold to fund illicit operations, or as recent reports regarding the OPM theft have shown, be used against United States government personnel. I look forward to hearing the witnesses' testimony and hope that this committee can work together to strengthen and protect this vital part of our nation's security and infrastructure. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Arizona for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Duffy and Ranking Member Green. Earlier this month, the Office of Personnel Management revealed that at least 4 million, and perhaps substantially more, current and former federal employees from nearly every federal agency, some of them military and defense personnel living in Arizona, may have had their personal information stolen. While DHS and the FBI continue to investigate this incident, it is strongly suspected that Chinese hackers are responsible for the breach. Cyber attacks from state and non-state actors have increased dramatically in recent years. The U.S. government needs a clear strategy to deter as well as detect and defeat ever-changing cyber threats. Federal law sets forth various requirements, roles, and responsibilities for securing federal agencies' systems and information. Despite these measures, according to an April 2015 GAO report, federal agencies continue to demonstrate shortcomings in assessing risks, developing and implementing security controls, and monitoring results. Securing our government requires strengthened security controls and information sharing infrastructures. Educating federal employees and contractors is also crucial if these efforts are to be successful. I look forward to hearing more from our witnesses today about the effectiveness of actions taken by federal agencies to address cyber vulnerabilities. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back my time.
The gentlelady yields back. We now recognize our witnesses. We have Mr. Frank Celufo, an Associate Vice President at George Washington University, Director of the Center for Cyber and Homeland Security, and Co-Director of GW's Cyber Center for National and Economic Security. Mr. Celufo has published extensively on cyber and homeland security. In addition, he has served on various national security-related committees sponsored by the government and nonprofits, including as the Vice Chairman of the Future of Terrorism Task Force of the Homeland Security Advisory Council and Chairman of the Quadrennial Homeland Security Review Advisory Council. Previously, Mr. Celufo served as Special Assistant to the President for Homeland Security. Immediately after the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, President George W. Bush appointed him to the Office of Homeland Security, where he was a principal advisor to Governor Tom Ridge. Mr. Celufo directed the President's Homeland Security Advisory Council. We also have Mr. Michael Madden. He serves on the Board of Advisors of the Center on Sanctions and Illicit Finance at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and is the Vice President for Business Development at Red Owl Analytics. Previously, Mr. Madden served as Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Office of Intelligence and Analysis of the Treasury Department, where he developed strategies to help identify and mitigate cyber risks within both the department and the financial sector. Mr. Madden holds an MBA from Wharton School, a Master's of International Affairs from Columbia, and a BA from Cornell. He is a recipient of the Bronze Star, the National Intelligence Distinguished Service Medal, and Treasury's Distinguished Service Award. And finally, but not least, Mr. Baitlick, welcome. He is the Chief Security Strategist at FireEye, a non-resident senior fellow in the Center for 21st Century Security and Intelligence of the Foreign Policy Program at Brookings, and a board member for the Open Information Security Foundation. Mr. Baitlick was Mandiant's Chief Security Officer. Before that, he was the Director of Incident Response for GE, and before that, worked extensively in the private sector. Previously, Mr. Baitlick was a military intelligence officer in the U.S. Air Force, Computer Emergency Response Team, Air Force Information Warfare Center, and Air Intelligence Agency. He holds a Master of Public Policy from Harvard University and a BS from the United States Air Force Academy. So with that, gentlemen, you will each be recognized for 5 minutes for an oral presentation of your testimony. Without objection, the witnesses' testimony will be made part of the record following their oral remarks. Once the witnesses have finished presenting their testimony, each member of the subcommittee will have 5 minutes within which to ask questions. Now, on your table, you have 3 lights: green, yellow, and red. Yellow means you have 1 minute left. Red means your time is up. The microphones are sensitive, so please make sure that you're speaking directly into them. And with that, Mr. Salufo, you are recognized for 5 minutes.